Shen King and Zhou Zixuan, the young master of the Zhou family, have been engaged since childhood. Everyone knows that she wants to marry into the Zhou family. Unfortunately, she has never been in his eye for many years. For the sake of the family, she must let the Zhou family fulfill the engagement as soon as possible. Zhou Zixuan told her mercilessly in front of everyone that there was absolutely no possibility between them. Zhou Qian, the uncle of the Zhou family, who has always been cold and reserved and rarely returns to China, gave her a room card when she was extremely desperate. "It's all Mrs. Zhou, change the groom. Don't you consider it?" Chapter E. The sincerity of marriage. Shen King's hand that opened the hotel door trembled a little. At a glance, it is very neat and tidy. There are no traces of passivity. Everything is new. She stood at the door with heavy steps, and she couldn't even lift a step. Footsteps came from behind him. Shen King turned his head and saw Zhou Qian strolling with an expressionless face. Although Zhou Qian has no expression, his short eyebrows are bright and his appearance is dignified. Even if he comes like the wind, he can't hide the nobility engraved in his bones. As he walked, he raised his hand to pull his tie. When he arrived at the door, he just tore off his tie. Then he put his arms around Shen King's waist and took her into the room. As soon as the door was closed, Shen King was pressed against the door panel. "It was not you." Until this moment that Shen King really saw Zhou Qian's face clearly. "You should know what it means when you take my room card, right?" Zhou Qian's breath was very close, staying on her lips, and she wanted to kiss at a distance. Shen King's heart beat violently. She raised her eyes, but she didn't dare to really look directly into Zhou Qian's eyes. The Shen family hopes to fulfill the engagement with the Zhou family. Shen King opened his mouth. When he opened his mouth, his heart tightened. But he still pretended to be relaxed and even raised his hand to take off Zhou Qian's coat a little. Shen King's flattery is obvious. She knows that she must do this today. Zhou Qian seems to enjoy Shen King's initiative and flattery. He turned his head and looked at her with a smile. The hand around her waist was tighter and more presumptuous. Shen King was very thin. Zhou Qian put his arms around her waist, feeling that he could crush her in minutes. But when he put his hand down a few points, it felt quite good. It seemed that thinness was thin, and the place that should be full was still not bad. It depends on your sincerity. Zhou Qian's eyes are a little deeper, and the invasion that surges in an instant is slightly intense. Shen King could feel Zhou Qian's hand. She closed her eyes slightly and enlarged her touch, and her breath also increased. The meaning of the invitation was obvious. Zhou Qian looked at her silently, appreciating and enjoying his prey. Shen King opened his eyes slightly and looked at him with a smile. At this moment, Zhou Qian is like a separatist, with a forbidden and desire on his face, but his subordinates are warm. Feeling the force of Zhou Qian's caress, Shen King smiled, put his feet slightly, and kissed his lips. It ignites at a touch, and the air in the room rises in an instant. Zhou Qian's coat was dropped, and Shen King was turned over, and his face almost stuck to the door panel. Just about to turn around and look, Zhou Qian's chest and chamber had been attached. The ring outside the room was fierce, and Zhou Qian in the room was very scary. Shen King gritted his teeth and persisted. In the indescribable tide, the door was suddenly knocked, and Zhou Zixuan's voice sounded outside the door. Shen King's heart trembled, and a string in his heart broke in an instant. When Zhou Qian pushed away, Shen King almost fell down. In an instant, she only felt that she had no strength at all. The moment she fell down, Zhou Qian picked her up again, and then hugged her to the bedside. Shen King was severely thrown on the bed. Shen King, who was lying on the bed, made a soft sound. Zhou Qian swallowed his saliva, shrank his eyes and kissed again. Shen King could only cooperate, but the knock on the door was still there. "Are you there?" Zhou Zixuan's voice outside the door was not interrupted, which made Shen King's Earth tighten. Chapter Are You Know Who I Am? Zhou Qian was a little reluctant to stuff Shen King into the quilt, then got out of bed and turned around. Shen King pulled the quilt down a little from his eyes and took a sneak peek. She could see Zhou Qian turning his back to her and going to the door while taking care of his clothes. When he arrived at the door, he even picked up the coat left by the door and threw it on his arm, and then opened the door as if nothing had happened. "I didn't open it all, just a crack. What's the matter?" Zhou Qian poked his head out a little. When he saw Zhou Zixuan, there was a little dissatisfaction that the fun was interrupted between his words. Uncle, you said you came up to change your clothes. Why did it take so long? There are so many people below waiting." When Zhou Zixuan opened his mouth, he looked into his eyes and was a little cowardly flattering, which was completely different from the arrogance and domineering attitude when he arrogantly said to Shen King that the two of them were impossible. "You go down first. I'll come down soon." Zhou Qian looked at him, and his expression didn't change. "No, I'll wait for you, uncle. I can't go down alone to explain. Everyone is deliberately here to pick you up." Zhou Qian frowned slightly, supported the door with his hand, and turned his head to look back with a smile. When Zhou Qian turned his head, Zhou Zixuan realized that there was someone in his room. He can't see the person inside clearly. Who? But looking down at the ground, I could faintly see that there seemed to be a piece of torn cloth by the door, and the color was a little familiar. Then for a moment, Zhou Zixuan was a little embarrassed. So I went down to wait for you. A man understands what it means to interrupt other people's good things. Zhou Zixuan will be interested in this time. Zhou Qian seemed to hum softly, but it didn't seem to. He took a step back and closed the door. After confirming that the door was closed, Shen Qing completely pulled down the quilt on his head. Zhou Qian did not go back to the bedside, but went to the bathroom by himself. When he pushed open the bathroom door, Zhou Qian looked back. Shen Qing quickly covered the quilt again. After a while, Zhou Qian's footsteps came closer, and then the collapse by the bed was obvious. After all, it's my reception banquet. The big guys are still here. I still have to go down and have a look. Zhou Qian pulled down the quilt a little, and the words fell into Shen Qing's ear, as if there was a kiss that seemed to have nothing. Shen Qing took a deep breath, slowly opened his eyes, raised his eyes, and looked at Zhou Qian's face. When he had restrained the warmth just now, he had changed back to the cold nobleman. He had changed his clothes after taking a shower, and then put the paper with his number on the head of the bed. Shen Qing felt what he should say, but all the words were blocked between his throat, and he couldn't say a word. She lingered with a strange man just for the sake of Mrs. Zhou. If you are tired, take a nap. Zhou Qian got up from the bedside and turned around to the door of the hotel. When Zhou Qian opened the door, he took care of his color and turned his head to look at her again. By the way, I'm Xuan's uncle. My name is Zhou Qian. You should have known it for a long time, right? Shen Qing didn't say anything and nodded honestly. She Zhou Qian. Although she had never met him, he was extremely favored by the Zhou family. He was sent abroad for study early. He was less than a few years older than Zhou Zixuan, and he was only in his early 30s. But after all, he was a good old man, and Mr. Zhou was very precious to him. Chapter 10. Let's talk. Shen Qing watched the hotel door be closed, and then sat up with her body. She looked down at her embarrassment and took a deep breath before holding back the urge to cry. Shen Qi has stretched out his hand and took the mobile phone from the head of the bed. Originally, I wanted to add Zhou Qian's number to the address book, but I still couldn't help but click into WeChat first. The red dot with unread information was too dazzling. Zhou Zixuan sent her a voice message to check the time, probably before he came up. Zhou Qian pressed her to the door. You do not, it's going to block me. It's really impossible for me. I've also heard about the current situation of your family. If you are really unwilling, let's make an appointment to have a good talk and see how I can compensate you a little. Shen Qing was silent for a few seconds, left the WeChat page, and did not reply. She saved Zhou Qian's number in her address book. Zhou Zixuan is her fiancé. She has known this since she was a child, so she has been in love with her sinuses, and the only person who makes her blush has always been Zhou Zixuan. Unfortunately, Zhou Zixuan didn't seem to call her. A few years ago, her family's business was worse, and she no longer matched with the Zhou family. She was afraid that she would lose the opportunity to marry Zhou Zixuan, so she has been chasing back. Until last week, her family's business fell into a low point and could not help herself at all. Her father asked her to finalize the marriage with the Zhou family. Unfortunately, Zhou Zixuan has been avoiding it. Last night, she finally found out that they were picking up the wind for his uncle here. She blocked Zhou Zixuan in the private room of the bar, but Zhou Zixuan said directly in front of everyone that they could not have never thought of marrying her since they were young. Shen Qing left the bar like an unclaimed dog with everyone is half pity and half worrying eyes. It was pouring rain outside the bar, and she didn't have the courage to rush into the rain directly. After hiding under the eaves in front of the bar for a few minutes, Zhou Qian appeared. When Zhou Zixuan belittled her to nothing, Zhou Qian just held a glass of wine on the sofa like an outsider watching a play. Zhou Qian gave her a room card and asked her if it was Mrs. Zhou and whether she would consider changing the groom. When Zhou Qian asked that, his tone was so light that it didn't look like when it comes to major events in life. It's as if he still has an empty seat around him, so he can marry a wife to play. After Zhou Qian left the room, Shen Qing took a hot bath by himself. The wrinkled skirt that was pushed by Zhou Qian was thrown away, and he put it back on his body without restraint. When I was about to leave the hotel, my mobile phone suddenly rang again. Zhou Zixuan actually called her. After hesitating for a few seconds, Shen Qing leaned against the door panel and connected the phone. I see it's raining heavily outside. Have you left? If you don't leave, shall we have a good chat? Zhou Zixuan's tone was a little lower, and he wanted to solve the relationship between them. I won't go to the private room. I'll wait for you in the bar lobby. After saying that, Shen King hung up the phone directly. She was in the private room and had lost her face. When Shen King went down from the hotel to the bar, it was still bustling and noisy. In the red and green, the sound of music shocked her a headache. I found a seat very close to the corner and asked for a glass of wine. When Zhou Zixuan came to her, his hand appeared first, and his fingertips tapped the table in front of her. Shen King went up and saw the face she had imagined countless times. Chapter 3. Being presumptuous in the car. Zhou Zixuan and Zhou Qian have a completely different aura. Zhou Qian looks cold, like ice, while Zhou Zixuan can tell at a glance that it is a sunny and cheerful big boy. But he is more childish. Shen King looked at him and looked deeply for several seconds. In her eyes, she had completed the farewell ceremony. She withdrew her eyes and opened her mouth indifferently. I know that we are both right about our problems. It is the older generation who is wrong. In this era, marriage freedom has long been over. Of course, I am also wrong. I should have made it clear to my family early and cancel the marriage. But I have only understood it in the past few years. I used to be ignorant. Many things. When Zhou Zixuan was talking, Shen King kept looking at him and ate his lips. In fact, it was too noisy. Shen King couldn't really hear what Zhou Zixuan said at all, but it was enough for her to know what Zhou Zixuan was going to say. Zhou Zixuan has always known and has never wanted to get married. In the past, he was not in a hurry because he had not yet burned his eyebrows. Now that something has happened in the Shen family's business, he can think of it with his toes. They should need the help of their Zhou family, and they will definitely try their best to get married as soon as possible. Shen King sighed softly. The music really made her ears numb. She simply picked up the glass of wine she ordered and drank it all. When she put down the wine glass, she got up by the way and patted Zhou Zixuan on the shoulder. Well, I got it. Please help me pay for the wine. It can be regarded as the two of us. Shen King just raised his foot to leave, but when he raised his eyes, he saw that Zhou Qian was standing not far away. Not only him, but also other people in the box before came out of the private room one after another, and it was likely that the audience would be dispersed. Zhou Zixuan looked up at her and turned his head with her gaze. When he saw Zhou Qian, he immediately stood up obediently. After Zhou Zixuan's eyes met, Zhou Qian came towards them step by step. Uncle, Zhou Zixuan called him. It's up. Are you going home? Zhou Qian turned his head and looked at Zhou Zixuan with a smile, but Yu Guang glanced at Shen King coldly. Uncle, didn't you open the house and go home? Zhou Zixuan's words are quite meaningful. Zhou Qian looked at him, smiled, raised his finger and pointed at him. You opened a room for me as soon as I arrived. I didn't know what kind of woman you were going to put in my room. Zhou Zixuan looked at him and smiled without a word. As soon as his uncle came back, there was a woman to deliver to his door, and he didn't need to plug him. Shen King broke out in a cold sweat when he heard Zhou Qian's joke, or Shen's words. He just said it to Shen King. Your kindness was received by the little uncle. Zhou Qian looked at Zhou Zixuan and smiled. Shen King was willing to accept this gift. Zhou Qian turned his eyes and looked at Shen King. Does Miss Shen want to go with us? I can send you, uncle. Zhou Zixuan lowered his eyes and pulled the corner of Zhou Qian's clothes with some dissatisfaction. Uncle, what are you doing? I made it clear that we are really not suitable. I will tell my grandfather when I go back. It's not suitable. It's really not suitable. I'll help you tell your father. Zhou Qian smiled, and then his eyes deepened a little. He continued to speak. But the gentleman and etiquette can't be lost at any time. Let a girl lose face in front of people. Do you think it's the face of the Shen family? What is lost is the face of our Zhou family. After Zhou Qian finished speaking, he glanced at Zhou Zixuan, and then directly reached out, grabbed Shen King's wrist, and pulled her out. Shen King didn't resist and let him pull him out of the bar. It has stopped raining outside. At this moment, Zhou Qian's fingertips holding her wrist were cold. But Shen King still couldn't help getting goosebumps. The heat of these hands before had not completely faded in her heart. Chapter 2. Good night. Zhou Zixuan's car. So when he walked to the side of the car, he subconsciously opened the co-driver's door. First, after all, Shen King is familiar with him. It will be more embarrassing for her to sit behind with Zhou Qian, whom we just met today. Zhou Qian glanced at the open car door. When he walked by, he raised his other hand directly and slapped it again. He opened the car door behind him and stuffed Shen King in. The whole action went smoothly and in one go. When he closed the rear door, he turned his head to look at Zhou Zixuan and drove well. Zhou Qian finished speaking. Go directly to the other side, then open the back door on the other side. Sit in and sit beside Shen King, with eyes facing each other. Shen King's face was a little dry. After that momentum passed, Shen Qing's reason made her usher in the embarrassment of knowing it after the thing. Zhou Zixuan got into the driver's seat, and the car started quickly. It was very quiet along the way. Quiet, but restless. Zhou Qian's fingertips changed from cold to hot again. From the corner of her skirt, she didn't move. Shen Qing didn't dare to move. She pulled her hand tightly with a guilty heart and had to admit that Zhou Qian could mobilize her emotions. Fortunately, Zhou Zixuan concentrated on driving and did not find anything strange behind him. Shen Qing turned his eyes and looked at Zhou Qian. The man looked ahead as if nothing had happened, and there was no trace of desire on his cold face. She thought that it would be painful and irresistible in front of the person she used to like, but she didn't expect that at this moment. She felt an indescribably proud and happy in her heart. It's not that no one wants her, but Zhou Zixuan is blind. Shen Qing dragged his tired body home. As soon as she entered the door, she saw Shen Lian, her father, sitting upright on the sofa. Why did you come back so late? Shen Lian's face was slightly serious, but there was also some old age in the seriousness, which was visible to the naked eye these days. When her mother passed away a few years ago, I saw him old once, and now again. Shen Qing took a deep breath, glanced at the half-window that had not been closed on the windowsill, and said helplessly, "Dad, didn't you see it all? Besides, didn't my brother come back? He was working overtime for the company." Shen Lian looked at her, but it was her son who was distressed. "Don't I also work overtime?" Shen Qing squeezed his lips and was a little dissatisfied, but he didn't dare to attack. "Did Zhou Zixuan send you back?" Shen Lian hummed softly, and then asked. He recognized Zhou Zixuan's car. "Yes." There was a little more inquiry in Shen Qing's eyes. He looked down, glanced at the broken corner of her skirt, and continued. "Did he agree?" "That's right." Shen Qing nodded and then looked in the direction of the room. "Dad, I'm very tired. I want to go back to bed first. Shall we talk about it tomorrow?" Shen Qing really didn't know how to explain to his father at this point. "It's like that, and it's also an answer." Zhou Zixuan sent her back. "That's right. It's true that the marriage with the Zhou family has been settled. I went back to my room, went into the bathroom, and put water, with kiss marks all over his body." Shen Qing took a hot bath comfortably. When he was about to fall asleep in the bathtub, the mobile phone on the washstand rang. Shen Qing got up, put on a bathrobe, then picked up his mobile phone and turned onto the door. When he left the bathroom, his steps stopped. The message was sent by Zhou Qian. "At 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the two families will have a meal together." Then, the address was also sent. Shen Qing looked at the screen of his mobile phone, typed a few words, and deleted them again. He didn't know how to reply appropriately. "Good night." Before Shen Qing sent it, Zhou Qian sent another sentence. This time, Shen Qing directly replied and ended the chat. Chapter 6: The Wedding Gift. Shen Qing didn't sleep very well. When she left the room the next day, her breakfast was almost cold. Shen Lian sat on the sofa and read the newspaper. However, she should have been waiting for her deliberately. After all, she didn't explain anything last night. That, standing in front of the sofa, Shen Qing opened his mouth. Shen Lian put down the newspaper for a little, raised his eyes and stared at her, humming, and his tone was not salty or light. "Your brother has gone to work again, so you just slept well." Hearing this, Shen Qing was quite speechless, but he still opened his mouth. "Yes, he worked very hard, but he was useless without me, wasn't he?" Shen Qing's words are already very euphemistic. If her brother is useful, how could he only take over the company for a year? There are constant problems, and now he is directly facing the risk and situation of the capital chain breaking. "Meet the Zhou family at the Lichen Hotel at 下午6点 and you can talk about it by yourself." After Shen Qing finished speaking, he glanced at the dining table. It was better to raise his feet in the direction of the room. "It was only a few hours, and I didn't get enough sleep at all." Shen Qing slapped the door loudly. After a nap, Shen Qing still got up and put on makeup to prepare for the evening meeting. When she was about to leave, Shen Haoji also came back, which should have been specially called back by her father. Indeed, no matter how much he worked overtime, tonight's meal would not be useful. In order to show their importance and style, he Shen family also specially drove 2 cars. Shen Lian got into one of the cars, and there was a driver in the car. Shen Qing was just about to lift his feet over when Shen Haoji said, "You take a car with me." After saying that, Shen Haoji directly helped her open the co-driver's door. Shen Qing nodded and got into the car as he meant. The car started quickly. Shen Qing didn't want to talk much. She kept looking out of the car window. Moreover, she was also a little uneasy at this moment. She didn't know what the situation was about today's meeting. Shen Haoji was driving, took a look at her, and opened his mouth. Was he wronged last night? Shen Qing glanced at him and said nothing. Shen Haoji took a deep breath and seemed a little exhausted. "I had a friend at Zhou Zixuan's drinking group yesterday. and I heard about it. Shen Haoji sighed. How did you convince him in the end? Shen Haoji heard the gossip and heard how Zhou Zixuan refused and slandered his sister. Are in the bar. Humph. Unconvincing. Shen King laughed a little bitterly, sleeping close. Shen Haoji looked at her and was a little surprised. But soon he showed a little heartache. If he hadn't really wanted to marry you, even if he married in this way now, I'm afraid your future life would not be good. Then what should we do? Why don't you just declare bankruptcy? Shen King looked at him with some sarcasm. His brother is not good at learning from anyone. In the past few years, he has leered at her father's hypocritical face. Shen Haoji really felt sorry for her, but it was really boring to hit the wall. So he simply stopped talking. The car soon stopped in front of the Lichen Hotel. Shen King unfastened his seatbelt and got out of the car. Shen Lian has arrived and is waiting for them at the door now. The three of them went in together and were guided all the way to the door of the private room. Shen Lian cowed lightly, tied up his clothes, and then raised his hand to knock on the door. Enter. A sound came from inside quickly. Shen King could hear Zhou Qian's voice. She swallowed her saliva unconsciously, and her heart tightened a little. Chapter 2. You can repent and push the door in. The meal has been prepared on the table of the private room. The people sitting at the table got up, and the people beside him also followed them and came towards them. Hello, Mr. Shen. Zhou Qian walked a few steps to Shen Lian, smiled politely, stretched out his hand to him, looked slightly, and glanced at Shen King, who was standing behind him. Shen Lian also smiled, but the smile was a little awkward. When he reached out to hold it, he reluctantly looked around again. There was no figure of Zhou Guotei, and even Zhou Zixuan was not there. Only the man in front of him and the people behind him. Shen Lian, the middle-aged man behind him, knew that he was the housekeeper of the Zhou family. Zhou Qian felt Shen Lian's eyes searching. When Zhou Qian withdrew his hand, he introduced himself. I'm sorry, my father hasn't been in very good health recently, so I can't do it today. Zhou Qian made a very regretful expression. Hearing this name, Shen Lian was stunned for 2 seconds, and smiled quickly. The young master of Brother Guotei. Yes, I just came back from abroad. Zhou Qian smiled, and then made an invitation gesture, signaling them to go in and sit down. Shen Lian sat down, and Shen King and Shen Haoji sat on both sides of him. Zhou Qian was very polite. Seeing that they all sat down, he also sat down. Then he reached out and took the gift list from the people around him, turned around and handed it to Shen Lian. Mr. Shen, then I'll get straight to the point. These are all the wedding gift lists prepared by the Zhou family. Can you have a look? Zhou Qian's straight-to-the-point sentence undoubtedly reveals his fierceness and skill and decisiveness. Shen Lian took it with a smile and looked down a little. When Shen Lian looked at the gift sheet, Shen King subconsciously lowered his eyes and felt a little sad in his heart. He felt that this was counting the money for her. Shen Lian is still very satisfied with the wedding gift, which is enough to solve the current urgent need of their company. When Shen Lian raised his eyes, he still couldn't help expressing a faint dissatisfaction. Naturally, this ceremony was quite heavy, but Zhou Zixuan himself did not show up, which inevitably looked down on my daughter too much. Mr. Shen, Zixuan did something unthoughtful. I will talk about him later. But, when Zhou Qian couldn't say anything, he looked at Shen King, smiling, and then continued that Zixuan had clearly expressed last night that he was unwilling to accept the marriage, and Miss Shen also acquiesced to the marriage. Zhou Qian looked at Shen King and waited for her to nod. Shen Lian was surprised, and then turned his head to look at Shen King. I went to the bathroom. Shen King lowered her eyes and didn't dare to look at him. In fact, she didn't dare to look at anyone's eyes at this moment, listening to the sound of running water on the washstand. If it weren't for the makeup on his face, Shen King would like to splash a handful of water on his face. In the end, she just supported the washstand and washed her hands. As soon as I took a tissue to wipe my hands, I looked up and saw Zhou Qian standing at the door with his hands in his pockets. After looking at each other in the mirror for several seconds, Zhou Qian raised his feet and walked to her side step by step. I told your father that you gave up your marriage with Zixuan. Now I am the rich money I have to propose to him. Your father has no objection. What about you? Zhou Qian was very calm when he spoke. Listening to him, it was as if he was talking about something irrelevant. I think this flower is very beautiful. What do you think of that feeling? Seeing that Shen King was silent, Zhou Qian said again, if you don't want to, you can repent. Today, I can pretend that I have never been here. Chapter 5. Do you have any comments? Shen King took a deep breath and turned to face him, smiled and changed back to the same smile as last night. I had no objection. Shen King raised his hand, then touched his tie, and said again, thank you for resolving the siege for me and the crisis for the Shen family. Zhou Qian smiled, raised his hand to hold her hand touching her tie, and then looked down at her. You're welcome. I'm not a philanthropist. The marriage is real, so you have to marry me. I wronged you. Zhou Quian lowered his head, got close to her ear, and then continued to open his mouth. I heard that you like Sixun very much. In the future, you have to face me and wrong you. Zhou Quian's breath was too close. Shen King got goosebumps. She couldn't help falling back a little, and then looked at Zhou Quian. Being able to feel Shen King's backward dodge, Zhou Quian smiled and took a step back. My father was old and worried that he couldn't see the day I got married. Every time when I came back, he urged me to choose a partner. I didn't have so much time to think about those things. It's okay, we've solved each other. Shen King looked at him, smiled unnaturally, and then nodded and turned around. Shen King. Zhou Quian pulled her. Shen King looked down at her wrist, wet Zhou Quian's arm, and looked up at Zhou Quian's face. She looked at him sideways and waited quietly for him to say something else. Grievance is wronging you, but the marriage is real, and my father's desire to hug his little grandson as soon as possible is also true. When Zhou Quian said this, his eyes stared at Shen King's eyes, and the emotions in his eyes were subtle and complicated. He pulled Shen King forward a little, came close to her ear again, and said, no matter who you are in your heart, it's quite appropriate between us, like last night. Shen King looked at him, smiled, pulled his wrist out of his hand, then lifted it directly and put his arms around Zhou Quian's neck. Well, I also think it was quite suitable last night. Shen King put his feet slightly, and the breath was close to his ears. Mr. Zhou's skills were not bad. As soon as Shen King finished his words, he felt that a slightly hot hand had been put on his waist. Shen King raised his eyes and subconsciously swallowed his saliva. The atmosphere of Hogwarts banquet is close and hot. Shen King didn't hide. He was so nervous that he couldn't help clenching his hands. She still remembers everything last night. Whether it's Zhou Quian's presumptuousness at the door, or the later strength, or the bad things in the car. When Zhou Quian's breath was close at hand, Shen Haji's voice came. It was a tacit understanding. When Shen King turned around, Zhou Quian had also put his hand down from her waist. He lowered his eyes slightly. At this moment, he lowered his head and rolled up his sleeves as if nothing had happened, moving calmly and elegantly. Where are you? Shen Haji's voice became closer. Shen King looked up and saw him coming in. Why didn't you tell me about you and Zhou Quian earlier? That was very. Shen Haji hurried forward to pull her, but when he opened his mouth, he found that Zhou Quian was actually standing behind. Zhou Quian rolled up his sleeves, and then slowly raised his eyes. When his eyes met, he smiled. He walked to Shen King's side in a few steps, but his eyes were on Shen Haji. Does Zhou's stepbrother have any opinions on my marriage with he? Chapter 2. It's all up to you. Zhou Quian is quite thoughtful. I sent them off in person after dinner, and Shen King was in a car with him. Just follow. When Shen King opened the door, he glanced at the car driving past them first. Miss Shen, rest assured. I went there last night. I remember the location. Zhou Quian opened his mouth and took off his coat. When he pulled the door and sat down, he happened to hand the coat to Shen King, the co-pilot. Shen King was slightly stunned for half a second and took it. After all, it was her future husband's coat. The car started and followed the two cars in front of it, not far or near, but the atmosphere in the carriage was a little subtle. Shen King's eyes were a little unnatural. If she looked out of the window, it would not seem polite. Staring at Zhou Quian seemed to be bad. Finally, her eyes drooped slightly and her eyes fell on the coat in her hand. Zhou Quian's coat is very exquisite, visible to the naked eye, and even has a faint fragrance. Shen King was a little curious about what kind of perfume smell it was. He subconsciously picked up his coat and smelled it. Like it. The voice of Zhou Quian sounded. Just curious. Shen King smiled and looked a little embarrassed at him. He quickly put down his clothes again. Well, is the marriage urgent? Now that he has spoken, Shen King will simply talk more. Can your company wait for a long time? Zhou Quian smiled decently and asked her back. Zhou Quian looked at her and smiled again. You don't have to worry. You and your family don't need to prepare anything. Our Zhou family will arrange all the processes carefully. Just cooperate a little. Zhou Quian looked ahead again. Shen King squeezed his lips and really didn't know what to say except nodding. The car fell into silence again. Shen King looked at the side face of Zhou Quian driving. At this moment, she was obviously deserted and reserved. But the picture of last night always came to her mind unconsciously. Sure enough, the man looks like to in bed and under the bed. When he was about to arrive, Zhou Quian slowed down and parked the car on the side of the road. Seeing that the car stopped, Shen King subconsciously sat up straight for a few minutes, and then looked at him with burning eyes to see what he was going to say and what he was going to explain. With his eyes facing each other, Zhou Quian frowned slightly. It seemed that it was not easy to open his mouth, but he still smiled politely again quickly. Yesterday, were you okay? Looking at Shen King, He opened his unbelievable eyes and added, "My habit. Are you okay?" Shen King swallowed his saliva and was speechless for a moment. Can Zhou Qian's topic be asked so bluntly and without blushing? "We have never communicated before. I don't know your specific requirements, but I will try my best to cooperate with you." Shen King didn't know how Zhou Qian said those words without any burden or shame. She already felt that her ears were burning just by listening to it. "Is there any problem?" Seeing Shen King's silence, Zhou Qian asked again, especially as if he was asking if there was a problem with a certain clause in a certain contract. "No problem, then. Did your father say when he had to have a baby?" Shen King still couldn't help asking this question, which was what she was most concerned about. "Are you in a hurry?" Zhou Qian asked her back. "I just came back, and if I want to enter the company later, it may take some time to adapt to different working environments and modes at home and abroad. If you are not particularly anxious, you can relax a little after marriage. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not afraid that your father can't wait." Shen King quickly waved his hand and paused when he spoke. She looked like a child who made a mistake, carefully glanced at Zhou Qian, raised her hand and slapped her mouth, laughing. It's okay. It's all up to you." Chapter 10. That's his little uncle. "Thank you for sending me back." Shen King handed his coat back to him, and then glanced at his father and brother's car, which had been parked next to him. He smiled, "And I won't invite you to sit in first." "I understand." Zhou Qian took the coat and nodded. Judging from the reaction of her father and brother today, she may not have informed about the change of person before, so when she goes back now, she probably has to explain that it is indeed inconvenient to invite him. "Feel free to call me if you have anything." Zhou Qian left this sentence for her before she got on the car. Shen King nodded and saw Zhou Qian's car leave. Then she took a deep breath and then raised her feet to go home. As expected, as soon as she entered the house, she could see that Shen Lian and Shen Haoji were already sitting on the sofa waiting for her. If you change someone, you don't even say hello in advance for such a big thing. Shen Lian opened his mouth to her and motioned her to come and explain clearly with his eyes. "It's all Mrs. Zhou. There are only a lot of wedding gifts. Can I still choose the groom?" "That, do you really think the earth revolves around our Shen family?" Facing Shen Lian's eyes, she walked to the sofa and didn't sit down. She just stood and opened her mouth. "Zhou Zixuan didn't like me for a day or two. How could I force him to marry me? Do you want to put a knife on his neck? Now I'm the one who is wronged. Don't let me give an explanation like a victim." "That's it. Zhou can't do anything." I was tired and went back to the room. Shen King didn't give anyone a chance to speak again. After saying that, he turned back to the room directly. Returning to the room and leaning against the door panel, Shen King fell into silence. She lowered her eyes and raised her hand slightly, faintly smelling the faint fragrance of Zhou Qian's coat. The door was knocked. "Open the door and let's talk." Outside the door is Shen Haoji's voice. Shen King sighed and turned around to open the door, with an indifferent look on his face. "Here, milk, drink." Shen Haoji brought her a cup of hot milk and handed it to her when he entered the door. Shen King took it, then turned around and sat down by the bed first. Shen Haoji pulled the chair and then faced her head on, so that he could better see her expression. "What's going on? Why did Zhou Zixuan change to Zhou Qian?" Shen King hummed and was not in a hurry to answer, but drank the milk slowly first. Not surprisingly, she knew that her brother was going to ask about this. She took a big sip of milk, raised the back of her hand to wipe it at will, and laughed. "This doesn't mean that I and the Zhou family are destined. But didn't you like Zhou Zixuan before?" "But he doesn't like me." Shen King was helpless. She looked at Shen Haoji and said with a smile, "Besides, brother, didn't you say it yourself? It's not good to bow your head in front of love. Zhou Zixuan doesn't like me. He has no vision. You advised me not to turn around him before. If it really doesn't work, help me cancel the marriage." "Of course, now it must. I can't return it. I can't help my family without help. Now it's okay. As you wish. I don't want Zhou Zixuan. I will definitely not be humble in love." "But that was his little uncle." Shen Haoji frowned. "Yes, how cool it is. If I marry him, will Zhou Zixuan, who has no eyes, still call me aunt?" "That was his little uncle." Shen Haoji repeated it again. Shen King's answer just now was too joking. "What's wrong with uncle? It's not his fault that he is tall. He's about the same age as you. Why don't you like him?" After Shen King finished speaking, he quickly drank all the milk and handed him the empty cup. "Well, after drinking, I'm going to bed. You also like to sleep. If you like to work overtime, go overtime." Shen Haoji looked at her slightly seriously and didn't answer. Shen King squealed his mouth and looked indifferent to his side, but she couldn't hold on for long, and Shen Haoji could easily see through her. But fortunately, the phone rang. Chapter 11. Like the sheets. "Hello, Honey, Shen King put the empty cup on the head of the bed and connected the phone. His voice was so sweet that it was almost watery. Hearing this, Shen Haoji couldn't help getting goosebumps. Zhou Quian, who was on the other end of the phone, raised his eyebrows and paused for 2 seconds, and then cooperated with her very interestingly. Honey, did you have a good time chatting with your father and brother? Of course. Shen King glanced at Shen Haoji with a smile. My father is a reasonable person, and my brother is also very talkative. He admires you. When I marry you, they will naturally be happy. That's good. Zhou Quian smiled. Shen Haoji didn't say anything more. In Shen King's smiling eyes, he took the cup and turned around and left. Shen King watched the door be closed. Then he took a deep breath, and his tone was a little more serious. I'm sorry, my brother was there just now. What's the matter with you calling me now? I guess it. Zhou Quian smiled in a low voice, and then continued to open his mouth. I forgot to tell you something. I made an appointment with one of my father's former designers at noon tomorrow. If you have time, come out to measure the size and talk about the idea of the wedding dress. By the way, although you don't need to prepare anything, marriage is a big deal. I still hope you have a good experience. At least some details of the wedding dress and wedding ring must be what you like. If you are still free after tomorrow, I will take you home to see my father. Okay, Shen King responded. She had no better words but to say. However, at the thought of really meeting his family officially, my heart was still a little anxious and my heart beat faster. Shen King also knows some of the Zhou family, but her identity has always been Zhou Zixuan's fiancé before. It feels a little strange that her identity has suddenly changed. After Shen King responded, the atmosphere seemed to suddenly fall into silence. As soon as Zhang Huiming's words fell, Shen King quickly smiled again. Hello, Uncle Zhang. If she is going to marry into the Zhou family, she must be well-rounded and polite. Miss Shen, you're welcome. Please. Zhang Huiming pulled the car door for her. Shen King nodded and got into the car. The car started quickly and was quiet all the way. Shen King really couldn't find a topic to talk to someone of different ages. After the car drove out for a long time, she smiled elegantly and said, how about the style of the designer we are going to see now? In fact, this topic was also brought up by Shen King. Miss Shen, don't worry, the former designer of the old man in the family can control all styles. If you have any ideas, she can satisfy you. Haha, that's good. Shen King smiled awkwardly and felt that he had asked an idiotic question. Clearing her throat, she continued to say, when will Zhou Quian arrive? Third master. The third master went to the company today. He is a newcomer and may have to say hello to many departments. It will be late. Butler Zhang answered truthfully, paused for 2 seconds and continued. But don't worry, after we talked, he should be almost done. Well, okay. Shen King nodded, looked out of the window, and didn't ask any more questions. She realized later what Zhou Quian's silence for a few seconds on the phone last night meant. The designer they know well is likely to have the size of Zhou Quian, and she is the only one who needs the quantity. Why? Maybe Zhou Quian meant that after they finished measuring, the housekeeper took her home, and then he also rushed back from the company. But Shen King heard about the wedding dress and subconsciously thought that Zhou Quian was with her. The car finally stopped in front of a very luxurious-looking store. When Shen King followed the housekeeper in, he was a little nervous. It's very big inside. It's a luxurious and retro-style tailor shop. It can be seen that the people who come here to order clothes are all rich people. There are no guests in it at the moment. They should have made an appointment and are waiting for them. There are only 2 clerks and the boss's wife, who should be the designer. The designer is a middle-aged woman, intelligent, elegant and charming. When she measured Shen King's size, Shen King could feel the fragrance on her body. Even her hair was fragrant and exquisite in every detail. Does Miss Shen have any special ideas about the wedding dress? While measuring, she opened her mouth with a smile. Shen King subconsciously swallowed her saliva. She didn't know how to answer this question. Not to mention the wedding dress. Even the wedding was about rushing the duck on the shelf. Where did she get the special idea? I don't know. For the first time, Shen King smiled helplessly. This is also very honest. It is really difficult for ordinary people who have not learned to design. That's right. It's not urgent. After the measurement, let's go out and talk slowly. The middle-aged woman smiled elegantly, but very gentle. Chapter 13. It first unexpectedly, when Shen King came out with the boss's wife, Zhou Quian was already outside. He is sitting at the table with housekeeper Zhang and drinking tea at the moment. Is the third master here? The boss's wife smiled and greeted her naturally. Zhou Quian was very elegant and decent. He smiled at the woman. Thank you, and thank you for your trouble. After thanking Zhou Quian, he also pulled away the chair beside him and looked at Shen King. And came to sit down. Okay. Shen King nodded with a smile and breathed a sigh of relief when he walked over. In the car, she knew that maybe Zhou Quian would not come so soon, or even come, so when she really saw him at this moment, she still felt a little lucky, and she could not cope with the next scene alone. Drinking tea. When Shen King sat down beside him, Yu Quian naturally poured tea for her. The housekeeper also got up, nodded to the boss's wife, and then went to the door first. He left. The boss's wife watched him disappear, and then sat down opposite them with a smile. Since the third master came in person, let's talk about the general style of the wedding dress. When the boss's wife finished saying this, her eyes finally fell on Shen King's face. After all, the bride still had the final say in this kind of thing. Shen King bit his lip and looked at Zhou Quian innocently and embarrassedly. Although the two of them are going to get married, they are really not so familiar with each other. But at this moment, she is indeed more familiar with Zhou Quian. Zhou Quian's arrival is like a life-saving straw. Facing Shen King's eyes for help, Zhou Quian smiled faintly, then held her hand and put it on the table. It looks like a deep affection. Shen King cooperated with him very much, staring into his eyes and opening his mouth. Do you have any ideas? Zhou Qi smiled, and then looked at the old man, Ben Niong, and Xue. I have some ideas. How about I draw a picture first, and then modify it according to the details she likes, and finally you can do it again. Zhou Quian spoke without leaking water. Okay, I'll get you a pen and paper. The boss's wife laughed. Zhou Quian is so direct, but it's simple, leaving a lot of trouble and time. The boss's wife stood up and was about to turn around when Zhou Quian suddenly said, and Xue, ho, W about we draw the first draft and send it directly tomorrow. At this point, it's time to eat. When Zhou Quian said this, Yu Guang glanced at Shen King. Shen King's stomach hurt just now, and he really heard it. Okay, no problem. The boss's wife nodded with a smile. Zhou Quian held Shen King's hand tightly, and then pulled her up together. Then Aunt Xue, we said goodbye first. Goodbye to Aunt Xue. Shen King also knows how to be interesting. He no longer embarrasses Zhou Quian outside, and tries to be decent and generous. Okay, the boss's wife nodded. Zhou Quian led Shen King to turn to the door. When the two went out, Shen King felt that his breathing outside was much smoother. It was a tacit understanding. When they went out, the two of them let go. I thought you wouldn't come. Shen King put the hand held by Zhou Quian behind him and smiled. Zhou Quian's palm was very warm, and Shen King could feel that the temperature of one hand was a little higher than that of the other hand. I said I would come. Zhou Quian smiled indifferently and said again, what do you want to eat? Don't go to your house. Shen King looked at him. Go there in the afternoon and have dinner there in the evening. Now, find a place to fill your stomach first. Chapter 14. Do you mind if I work for a while? The two of us found a nearby restaurant. She chose a window seat. When she walked over, Zhou Quian walked a little faster. Fortunately, Shen King just helped her pull the chair away when she walked to the table. Thank you. When Shen King sat down, he raised his eyes and smiled at him to thank him. You're welcome. Zhou Quian smiled, then turned to the other side, pulled a chair and sat down face to face with her. When Zhou Quian handed over the menu, Shen King waved his hand consciously. I won't pick. How about you? Okay. Zhou Quian nodded and quickly ordered a few dishes. When Zhou Quian finished ordering and put down the menu, he opened his mouth again. Why didn't he have breakfast? How do you know? Shen King was a little surprised. Guessed? Zhou Quian lowered her eyes and glanced at the time. Although it was noon, it was still early. If she ate in the morning, her stomach would not be so hungry. I was a little nervous in the morning and couldn't eat. But Shen King told the truth. They should be frank, and it is not a smart way to play tricks. Shen King looked at Zhou Quian, was silent for 2 seconds, and counting. You need to speak again. This time, his face felt a little guilty. I'm sorry. Did you rush to come today because of my request last night? I should come here. Marriage is a matter of 2 people. Zhou Quian smiled faintly, but of course he underestimated it. You are dressed beautifully today. Zhou Quian looked at her and said this with a very faint expression. Shen King didn't know whether he was really praising or polite. Shen King thanked him, and then fell silent again. I really can't find a topic to talk about. After all, they are not so familiar with each other. Are you the third in a row? After a while, Shen King asked again. She remembered that the housekeeper called him third master. Yes. There are brothers and sisters. My grandfather has both children. I was an accident, but the old man believed in fate, so he was old and insisted on giving birth to me. My second sister got married very well, and my eldest brother got married very early. That is Zixuan's father. Zhou Quian glanced at Shen King when he said this. Maybe he felt that mentioning that name would embarrass Shen King. Well, Shen King didn't show anything, just nodded silently. She found that Zhou Quian, in addition to being elegant and comprehensive when necessary to talk, he didn't seem to talk much in private. He was not very good at taking the initiative to talk about the topic, but when you asked anything, he had a sense of knowing everything. The meal is served quick, light, and the interval between meals can relieve some embarrassment and anxiety. Shen King didn't say anything when he ate, and Zhou Qian also ate elegantly and calmly. Soon after filling their stomachs, the two of them left the restaurant together. Zhou Qian looked down at the time, and then led Shen King to the car. Shen King didn't ask much, but silently fastened her seatbelt. She thought Zhou Qian was going to drive. Unexpectedly, Zhou Qian just rolled down the window, then turned around and took out the laptop from the back of the car. He glanced at Shen King. Sorry, do you mind if I work for a while? I have to take Shen King back later. I'm too lazy to go back to the company, but I have enough time to be busy for a while. Please. Shen King smiled and made a casual gesture. The car was very quiet, only the sound of Zhou Qian typing. Shen King subconsciously glanced at him a few times. Zhou Qian was very serious and handsome when he worked, or rather, he was actually very sexy. Amen. But when he slept with you, the adjectives used by Shen King in his mind couldn't help but approach him. Chapter 15. People have 3 emergencies, which is quite unexpected. Shen King is not a patient person, but today she sat with Zhou Qian from dawn to dusk, and she was not bored. Maybe it's because the steady person doesn't consciously feel a little more stable. Maybe it's because she knows too well in her heart that she is now the one who should be flattered and is not qualified to be dissatisfied with anything. Sorry to keep you waiting for a long time. When Zhou Qian closed the computer, he turned his head to look at Shen King, with a slight apology in his eyes. It's okay. Originally, I was delaying your work. Shen King smiled when he said this, and then opened his arms slightly and stretched out. She doesn't know whether Zhou Qian has worked so hard for so long, but she really has a backache after sitting for so long. When Shen King's arm was opened, Zhou Qian just put the computer back and directly held her outstretched wrist as soon as he turned his eyes. Looking at each other, Shen King opened his eyes wide and felt a little embarrassed. I sat a little numb. I know, Zhou Qian nodded, and the force went up from her wrist to pinch her elbow, as if he was messaging. Don't talk about it. It's quite comfortable. No, it's okay. Shen King indulged himself for more than 10 seconds, and soon withdrew his hand. The direct contact of the limbs still makes her feel a little hot. It's almost time. Buy some gifts and go back. Zhou Qian let her withdraw her hand and asked, what to buy? Do you know what your father likes? Shen King spoke very carefully. She knew that Zhou Qian was talking about her door-to-door gift, and she couldn't be empty-handed. Buy it casually. Zhou Qian smiled faintly, but his expression and tone were not joking. Shen King looked at him incredulously. Because there is nothing missing at home. Just buy it casually, and you don't really need it. Zhou Qian's words are so true that it is admirable. Okay, can you? Shen King bit his lip and pointed to a shopping mall outside the window and go to buy it. Yes, do you like to go there? Zhou Qian nodded, and then asked back. No, Shen King swallowed his saliva and looked a little embarrassed. We have been sitting in the car for hours. Zhou Qian was puzzled. He looked at each other for several seconds before he smiled and understood that people were in a hurry. Well, when Shen King nodded, he couldn't wait to find a hole in the ground. She didn't understand why Zhou Qian could always say some words that she felt ashamed of so painlessly. According to Shen King's meaning, the two went to the nearest shopping mall. As soon as he entered the mall, Shen King subconsciously looked around. Zhou Qian also raised his eyes and looked around, then suddenly held Shen King's wrist and pulled her in the direction of the toilet guide sign. Shen King was pulled by him and subconsciously looked up at his side face, which was warmed. As soon as she came in, John Wang was actually not looking for the bathroom. She was looking for a place where Zhou Qian could rest and wait for her. But unexpectedly, Zhou Qian pulled her directly out of the bathroom. Go ahead. Zhou Qian let go of her wrist and motioned her to go in. Are you waiting here? Shen King was a little embarrassed. I can only wait here. I can't get in. Zhou Qian looked up at the girl's signboard. There was something to do. Haha. Shen King couldn't help laughing when he saw him like that. This smile was even more amazing. Shen King turned around and trotted in directly. Zhou Qian looked at her running in and smiled unconsciously. Shen King is very cute. He was very cute when he was a child. Chapter 16. Returning home, two people came out of the mall, and Zhou Qian carried a bunch of flashy GFTs in his hand. Moreover, these gifts are paid by Zhou Qian himself. He is about to get married. He doesn't have to be too clear, and his education doesn't allow him to be with such a little girl and ask others to take out his wallet. He returned to the car again and started the car. This time, Shen King's nervousness was visible to the naked eye. Is your father serious? Shen King secretly glanced at Zhou Qian several times, and finally couldn't help asking. It's okay. Occasionally stubborn. Zhou Qian smiled. When he mentioned his family, He subconsciously softened his eyebrows. You must have seen my father when you were a child, right? Zhou Qian turned his head to look at her and asked back. Shen Qing smiled awkwardly and shook his head. I really have no impression. It's okay. He is still easy to talk to. Zhou Qian smiled. Shen Qing looked at Zhou Qian's side face and smiled bitterly. My father often said that in the past, our two families had a good relationship. But later, your family became better and better, but our family became worse and worse, and gradually the intersection gradually became less. He was also worried that the Zhou family would not betray their trust. Before Shen Qing finished speaking, Zhou Qian had already said this. Shen Qing was stunned and laughed. Isn't it because of you? Otherwise, you have to brag. Shen Qing is very honest. Zhou Qian frowned slightly and said nothing more. The car fell into silence again. After a while, the car stopped in front of a well-lit villa. Shen Qing unfastened his seatbelt and looked at Zhou Qian again with some restraint. My eldest brother and my second sister are not here. They have been busy recently, but when the wedding comes, they will put down their work to participate. Don't worry. Zhou Qian unfastened his seatbelt and said this by the way. Shen Qing nodded and looked at Zhou Qian's eyes, and there was still a little timidity. Zhou Qian got key out of the car, then went around her side and helped her open the car door. Come on. Zhou Qian stretched out his hand. Shen Qing raised his eyes and put his hand in his palm. The real skin touch, the warmth of Zhou Qian's palm, still made Shen Qing's picture of that night flash in his mind. Zhou Qian's elegant aura in bed is really different from his usual elegant aura. Shen Qing was let out of the car by him. Soon, a figure came out of it. It was Zhang Huiming, the housekeeper. Third, Master, are you back? Good evening, Miss Shen. The housekeeper's polite greetings. Shen Qing quickly nodded in response. Come in. There was a gift in the trunk. Zhou Qian nodded, glanced at the trunk, and then took Shen Qing to take care of himself and walked in first. When he really entered the door, Shen Qing's heart still unconsciously beat a little faster. Hello, Third Master. Mr. Zhou has a lot of people here, and they all follow Zhou Qian to say hello. My fiancé Shen Qing and Zhou Qian were very patient and even repeated this sentence to everyone who said hello. Shen Qing was actually a little embarrassed. She didn't know that these servants of the Zhou family were gossiping, and did she know what happened to Zhou Zixuan before? Where is my father? Zhou Qian took Shen Qing into the hall, and then turned his head to look at the housekeeper who also came in. Upstairs, I'll ask you down. Zhang Huiming smiled, put down the gift, and then hurried upstairs. Shen Qing took a deep breath and stood in the middle of the hall to look around the villa. He couldn't help sighing that your house is so big. Sit down. Zhou Qian pulled her to the sofa, then let go of her hand and signaled her to sit down. Don't worry, after marriage, we will also move out to live alone. Don't worry, we don't have to face the elders every day. When Zhou Qian said this, his eyes fell on her side face. When the servant came to make tea, he subconsciously moved his buttocks slightly and naturally sat closer to Shen Qing. Chapter 17. It's embarrassing to change clothes. Shen Qing didn't say a word at the dinner table except for the polite name when he first saw Zhou Guotei. Although the old man has been in poor health recently, his aura is not weak. Shen Qing sat next to Zhou Qian, just eating obediently, and didn't dare to raise his head. This kind of restraint at this moment is the family, and the insurmountable gap between families has nothing to do with Zhou Qian or Zhou Zixuan, the person sitting next to her. The old man didn't even say a word more about why the two of them came together, as if they were not interested at all. At this moment, he was purely meeting his daughter-in-law before marriage. But this kind of short-mindedness seems more rusty, like the experience in front of outsiders. If they have any ideas and opinions inside, they need to close the door and talk in private. Dictionary is enough, but alienation is so obvious. Zhou Qian is as thoughtful as ever. He chatted with the old man and picked up food for Shen Qing from time to time. Come on, thank you for coming to see me today, and you are also welcome. Hearing Zhou Guotei call her, Shen Qing quickly raised his eyes, smiled, and also raised the cup, and even struggled with whether to stand up. Just take a sip. Zhou Qian raised his glass with a smile and didn't forget to tell the old man, okay, one bite, come on. Zhou Guotei smiled. When the cup crossed the table, Shen Qing quickly got up, raised the cup and touched it with him. After touching, he sat back, and then raised his head to prepare to drink. Grandpa. When Zhou Zixuan's voice sounded, Shen Qing paused and spilled some wine from the raised glass. In embarrassment, Shen Qing could feel the wetness of the wine spilled on the skirt. He turned his head and saw Zhou Zixuan approaching, and his heart was also embarrassed. Didn't you say to eat outside with friends? Zhou Qian's voice sounded in his ear. Shen Qing looked down and saw that Zhou Qian had approached her, took 2 pieces of paper, and was wiping the wine stains on her skirt. You and Shen Qing go home for dinner. Of course I have to come back to accompany you. Zhou Zixuan smiled, As expected, he walked to the table and glanced down at the intimacy between Zhou Qian and Shen King at this moment. Move, uncle, you are not too generous. When did you two get together? You didn't communicate with me, which made me scared for a long time. Zhou Zixuan's words were quite complaining. If he had known that they had a relationship, he would not have to avoid Shen King so much. He was really afraid that their family would let him marry Shen King. Zhou Qian's eyes sank a little, and he raised his eyes to look at Zhou Zixuan, unconsciously showed a little seriousness. Zhou Zixuan's personality is very careless. It may not be too much for him to say this, but it is inappropriate to say it in front of Shen King, and it is even more inappropriate to say it in front of the old man. Shen King's face is also not very good. This feeling is not good. The person who should have married her is not happy, but now he naturally changes his position, as if Shen King is the one who doesn't know the checkpoint and let the marriage fail. Now that you're back, sit down and have a meal. We're almost done. I'll take her back to her room to change her clothes. Zhou Qian pulled Shen King up from the chair, nodded to the old man, and then took Shen King's wrist and went straight upstairs. Shen King was pulled by Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian's palm was on her pulse, and the force was not light or heavy, but she can feel the beating under the warm palm. Chapter 18: How to Get Along with Each Other. Zhou Qian handed Shen King a set of his bathrobes, glanced at the direction of the bathroom, and signaled her to change it. Shen King pursed his lips and took it. He wanted to say something, but there was no way to say it. Finally, he just nodded and turned around to the bathroom. When Shen King came out of the bathroom, Zhou Qian turned his back to her and was standing in front of the window and looking outside. Hearing Shen King's footsteps, he turned his head and saw that Shen King had put on a long bathrobe, almost mocking, and held the skirt she had changed in his age. And Sir Li Guyan walked to her in front of her, and then naturally took the clothes. Wait for me, I'll ask them to deal with it, and it will be fine in a while. Shen King nodded and watched Zhou Qian leave the room. She took a deep breath, then lowered her eyes and glanced at the mopped bathrobe. She could smell the faint fragrance on the bathrobe. Zhou Qian soon came back with a glass of water in his hand. Shen King quickly walked to him. Are you full? Handing over the water, Zhou Qian asked. Well, Shen King took it, nodded, and then held the cup and drank water in silence, sipping little by little, like a kitten. Zhou Qian looked at her, and his throat moved slightly. You don't have to pay too much attention to what Zixuan said today, Zhou Qian said, and then reached out to pick up the cup. I know, I didn't feel at ease. Shen King handed over the water cup, but felt that Zhou Qian held the cup with her hand. Shen King swallowed and looked up at him. Zhou Qian, together with the cup and hand, pulled a little closer to him, and then looked into her eyes. There was something he wanted to ask. You say? Shen King lowered his eyes to avoid Zhou Qian's eyes at this moment. She looked at the cup in her hands. How do we get along now? Zhou Qian whispered and added another sentence. I'm talking about before marriage. The previous night was like a tacit deposit, so that we could make each other's minds not to repent. But when the contract takes effect without regret, how do they get along during the period before the official marriage? Whether it was the direct way of husband and wife, or left the closer action until after marriage, Zhou Qian was afraid of offending Shen King. Shen King is not frivolous, not promiscuous, and even, that was the first time, he knew, it's just a last resort to make the Zhou family fulfill the engagement. In order to survive, you can use some means, which is the nature of human nature, which is the easy as to be accepted and forgiven. You decided that. Shen King looked up at him, but withdrew his hand. Zhou Qian was silent, and then silently clenched the water cup in his hand and nodded. When he opened his mouth, it was no longer the topic. You walk here and sit for a while. The skirt will be ready. I will send it to you. Shen King's actions have said everything, and some words only need to be clicked to the end. Just treat it as your own home. Zhou Qian said this before turning around. Andy then took the water cup out of the room. Shen King looked at Zhou Qian's figure and went out of the door. He didn't know if he had said the wrong thing to make him unhappy. Zhou Qian was very decent, and he really never came in again. However, a servant sent her a fruit plate and a few books to relieve her boredom. Shen King didn't want to eat fruit or read books. She raised her eyes and looked around Zhou Qian's room. The room was very large but clean and tidy. It's simple and luxurious, not pompous. Chapter 19 Gift. When Zhou Qian came in again, she came with her skirt, which had been taken care of and dried. Well, when Zhou Qian handed her the skirt, he glanced at the fruits and books on the table that had not been touched at all. Thank you. Shen King nodded and took it. It's a little late now. My father is asleep, so I won't say hello to him. I'll take you back after changing my clothes. Zhou Qian looked down at his watch when he said this. Okay, Shen King nodded. At this moment, he looked inexplicably obedient. All right, then you change it. I'll go out and wait. That's it. Just turn your back. Seeing that Zhou Qian was about to leave, Shen Qing quickly said this. Zhou Qian hesitated for 2 seconds and turned his back silently. Shen Qing took the skirt and also turned his back, facing Zhou Qian's back. It was embarrassing to change directly. She turned her back to Zhou Qian and took off her bathrobe, and then put her skirt on her upper body. When she turned around, she found that Zhou Qian had turned around and was looking at her with burning eyes at this moment. Shen Qing's hand on the skirt paused, and he was a little embarrassed in an instant. Zhou Qian raised his foot and reached out to help her tidy up her skirt, and then said that sometimes he had to refuse men, because men are not so upright at all times. Zhou Qian said that he was himself, but perhaps it is also the majority of people. If they don't refuse, it is acquiescence. Shen Qing hummed and felt that Zhou Qian was moving her skirt, and her heart beat a little faster unconsciously. Zhou Qian's words, and then the addition of this action, are like an advance broadcast to give you psychological preparation. He doesn't want to be a gentleman. Sure enough, after Zhou Qian took care of it, he directly hugged her waist. He hugged her a little closer to him without saying a word. I really didn't expect that Sixun would come back today. In the future, I will let you see him as little as possible except for the necessary family banquets. Shen Qing looked up at him and wanted to ask you if you care, but he didn't speak in the end. According to her and Zhou Sixun's previous identity, it's really better to meet less. After swallowing slightly, Shen Qing asked carefully, is he gone? Well, Zhou Qian nodded and looked at her eyes with some tentativeness. He wondered whether Zhou Sixun was lost or relieved that the message of Zhou Sixun had left. Let's go. Zhou Qian held Shen Qing's wrist and pulled her out of the room. The two walked through the hall and were about to go out when the housekeeper quickly followed. Third master, the housekeeper caught up with them, looked at Zhou Qian, and then at Shen Qing. Well, the old man prepared a gift for Miss Shen, and I put it away. I didn't know that Miss Shen was leaving now. Wait for me a moment. After the housekeeper finished speaking, he hurried to find the gift. The housekeeper quickly brought the gift. Shen Qing looked at the box in his hand, and Yu Guang subconsciously glanced at Zhou Qian. According to the housekeeper's previous words, it seemed that he thought she would stay tonight. Zhou Qian took the gift and handed it to Shen Qing. Shen Qing looked up at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian smiled and said, accept it, my father's heart. Thank you. Shen Qing thanked Zhou Qian, picked it up, and then looked at the housekeeper with a smile. Uncle Zhong also helped me say thank you to the old man. Okay, the housekeeper nodded, and then saw them out of the door. Chapter 20 Bracelet. When he got to the car, Shen Qing opened the box. Inside was an exquisite bracelet that looked very valuable. Will it be too expensive? Shen Qing bit his lip and looked at the bracelet, and then turned to look at Zhou Qian. It's okay, my father's little thoughts. Zhou Qian drove the car and opened his mouth very lightly. If you like to wear it, you can wear it. If you are not used to it, you can put it away. It doesn't matter. Then thank you, Dad. Shen Qing took out the bracelet and tried it on his hand. She raised her wrist and looked sideways. The car suddenly stopped. Shen Qing turned his head to look at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian sighed softly, stretched out his hand, pulled her wrist to him, and looked down. It was very beautiful and very suitable. If for you, I'll try it. I'd better put it away when I go back. I'm not used to wearing it. When Shen Qing spoke, his eyes fell on his wrist. He could not only see the bracelet on his wrist, but also Zhou Qian's hand holding her wrist. When the housekeeper said that today, don't think too much, Zhou Qian didn't let go of her hand, but still held it. He just turned his head and looked at her while talking. Well, Shen Qing nodded, but more attention was still on his wrist. I don't know if it was as an illusion, but the warmth on his wrist was even more. I don't know whether her own body temperature has increased or Zhou Qian's palm has become hotter. Do they think I will stay overnight? After 2 seconds of silence, Shen Qing asked this question. The two of us got married soon, and your skirt was wet so late last night, so they are still very open. When Zhou Qian said this, he looked at Shen Qing's face. He let go of his hand and smiled. Your hand is white, and the bracelet is very suitable. Shen Qing withdrew his hand, then lowered his eyes and nodded. The atmosphere in the car has become a little subtle. Shen Qing nodded, and he didn't know whether to approve his evaluation of her wearing a bracelet or accept his statement that he thought she would stay. What did you tell your father? After hesitating, Shen Qing still asked this question. From Zhou Sixun to him, Shen Qing didn't know how he explained it to his family. I said you were already mine, so they took it for granted that you would stay today. Zhou Qian is very honest, and it is not a lie. However, not all of them. He didn't tell Shen Qing. If he didn't say so, the Zhou family did want to cancel the marriage. In the past, they did have a good relationship, but the Zhou family has been in the mall for so long, and the relationship has been much better. Their family has many choices. Hearing Zhou Qian's words, Shen Qing was still a little embarrassed to say that she was already his person. There is no need for psychological burden. I will definitely marry you. Moreover, I will respect you. When Zhou Qian said this, he looked at Shen Qing's face, and his eyes seemed to be very deep. Shen Qing looked up at him, and Zhou Qian's eyes seemed to become a little clear again. Shen Qing always felt that Zhou Qian was not so happy, although his words were dripping. When they looked at each other, Zhou Qian's phone rang, saying that Zhou Qian withdrew his eyes and answered the phone. Tomorrow is not possible. There are personal matters to deal with. Is it okay? Tomorrow afternoon. Zhou Qian took a look at Shen Qing when he hung up the phone. Tomorrow, I will try my best to make time and we will go to Anxie again. But I haven't decided the time yet. I'll wait for you, anytime. Shen Qing spoke quickly. Chapter 21 Efficiency. Shen Qing was quiet when he came home, for fear of waking up her father or brother. In the dark, as soon as I walked through the living room, there was a cough. You should have told me earlier when you came back so late. Shen Qing stood standing. When he heard the voice, he breathed a sigh of relief. It was Shen Haoji's voice. Shen Zhou got up, and then pulled her directly to the direction of her room. He didn't turn on the light until he entered the door, trying not to wake up their father. When the light turned on, Shen Qing narrowed his eyes slightly, and then turned to look at Shen Haoji. Brother, you didn't deliberately wait for me all night, did you? Dad said you went to Zhou's house. How about it? Shen Haoji looked at her and asked this question. I just had a meal, but it was not good. When Shen Qing said this, he yawned and stretched out. Obviously that he didn't want to talk more. As long as the Zhou family is willing to help them, she doesn't want to say more about the relationship between her and Zhou Qian. Don't come back so late in the future. Shen Haoji sighed softly. When he opened his mouth, his tone was a little lower. You are at Zhou's house. I can't call you to urge you, but you still have to come back. Shen Haoji looked at her, paused for 2 seconds and continued. I mean before marriage. I have a measure. Shen Qing frowned. Besides, I'm going to get married soon. I'll sleep with him in the future, sooner or later. Unlike Shen Haoji's euphemism, Shen Qing's words are straightforward. Yes, I know you will get married sooner or later. I just don't want the Zhou family to look down on you. Shen Haoji said with a somewhat contradictory expression. He doesn't want his sister to be wronged, but he does need the help of the Zhou family. In order to make the Zhou family fulfill the marriage, Shen Qing has been counted as a son. Now, at least a little more reserved. It is possible to save some impressions. The Zhou family has already credited part of the money to the account. They should already know that we are in a hurry, and it is more dangerous to delay for another day. So fast. Shen Qing was a little surprised. Zhou Qian is really efficient. After all, they haven't seen each other for a few days in total, and Zhou Qian has put everything on the agenda. I slept, proposed marriage, prepared my wedding dress, and met my parents. Unexpectedly, everything was in place in just a few days. In this case, you should rest assured to sleep well. Shen Qing looked at him and shrugged his shoulders. I was also very sleepy. Shen Haoji wanted to say something else, but finally turned around in silence. And you should go to bed early. Shen Qing watched the door close, took a deep breath, put the gift given by Mr. Zhou from the back, and then went into the bathroom to take a shower. I went straight to bed when I came out of the bathroom. Zhou Qian said that she would go to Aunt Xia's place with her again tomorrow. She really should wait for him and cooperate at any time. She has given enough of her heart, and even gave it ahead of time. She really wants to fulfill her obligations. Zhou Qian didn't say it directly. In fact, if he said it directly, Shen Qing felt that he could not stay at Zhou's house. Shen Qing tossed and turned and didn't fall asleep. He didn't sleep until midnight, so he woke up very late. When I opened my eyes, I took out my mobile phone from under the pillow and looked at the time. It was noon. She got up to wash, and this time she quickly ate something first, because she didn't know when Zhou Qian would come to her when she was busy, so she had changed her clothes early. After waiting for a long time, the message of Zhou Qian was sent in the evening. I didn't say anything, I just sent an address. Shen Qing didn't ask much, but went directly to that address. Chapter 22 At the weekly banquet, Shen Qing got off the car in front of a very luxurious-looking restaurant. After getting out of the car, Shen Qing looked around and didn't see Zhou Qian. She subconsciously looked down at her mobile phone, wondering whether to send a message to Zhou Qian for details. When she lowered her head, there was a sound of footsteps, and then stopped beside her. Miss Shen. Shen Qing raised his eyes when he heard the sound and saw a strange young man. I am. Shen Qing hesitated for 2 seconds and nodded. Hello, I'm Mr. Zhou's assistant. Mr. Zhou told me that if you come, please come in with me. For a moment, the young man spoke politely. After saying that, he raised his finger and pointed in the direction of the restaurant. Okay, Shen King nodded and followed him into the restaurant. I didn't go inside. There was a waiting area next to the door. The decoration was very good. After Shen King sat down, someone delivered tea. The assistant didn't sit down with him. He just took a look inside again after Shen King sat down properly. I needed to go in. Mr. Zhou should be done soon. Yo, you wait here. Shen King nodded with a smile, which was very decent. After the assistant left, Shen King sat and looked around. Finally, he could only hold the tea in his hand and lowered his head to wait for the time to pass. 10 minutes later, there was a sound, and it was quite lively. Shen King poked his head and looked out. He could see Zhou Quian should have drunk a lot of wine. Although he was supported by his assistant at this moment, he still couldn't hide his aura of talking and laughing. It was probably what he did. He personally sent several companions who were eating and drinking out of the door, and watched the car leave. Then he took a deep breath, and then went back to the restaurant with the help of his assistant, listening to the footsteps. This time it is coming towards me. Shen King took a deep breath, and then quickly sat down as if nothing had happened. Zhou Quian's figure appeared, and Shen King raised his eyes again and stood up with a smile. Are you done? Zhou Quian nodded and did not let the assistant continue to support him. He asked the assistant to drive first. Then he walked to Shen King as calmly as possible. Although his steps were steady, he really walked forward. But Shen King could still smell the smell of wine on his body. Sorry to keep you waiting for a long time. Zhou Quian stood in front of her and looked down at the time. But now and she should still be waiting for us and told her, are you okay? Actually, it's not urgent. Or you, it's okay, I'm fine. Zhou Quian smiled, then held Shen King's wrist and pulled her up from the chair. Shen King let him pull him. I don't know if it was because Zhou Quian drank. At this moment, the body temperature should be a little high, which Shen King could feel from the warmth of his palm. I have to meet them today, so I can only arrange it early in the afternoon, so that I still have time to go to Aunt Xue's place after the meeting. When Zhou Quian said this, his tone was light. Well, Shen King nodded. She knew that Zhou Quian should be very busy, and the time was drawn up like squeezing sponges, but he was so busy that he was still thinking about it. He didn't say much, which seemed that she didn't care about marriage. Thank you. When I went out, the assistant had already driven the car to the door. When Zhou Quian opened the door for Shen King whispered this, and my brother told me. That's right. Zhou Quian smiled, and then signaled her to get in the car. Chapter 23. It's not embarrassing to be drunk. After getting into the car, Zhou Quian's string seemed to relax a little, and he leaned on the seat and closed his eyes for a while. I drank a lot of wine today. I really shouldn't have gone to Aunt Xue's place at this time. It's okay to make an appointment. I'm very familiar with Aunt Xue. However, when he got to the wine table, he began to think of Shen King. Therefore, if he did and go to Aunt Xue's place, it seemed that there was no special reason to ask her out at this point. The car started. Shen King did not dare to speak, nor did he dare to disturb Zhou Quian's closed eyes. His eyes went back and forth between the scenery outside the car window and Zhou Quian's side face. It seemed that he could feel Shen King's gaze. Zhou Quian opened his eyes slightly and turned his eyes to look at her. Shen King looked a little innocent at this moment. He looked at him, but he didn't seem to know what to say. Like a child's ignorance, the four eyes were facing each other, and the atmosphere seemed to be inexplicably subtle. Shen King bit his lip, and in Zhou Quian's eyes, he was even more at a loss. Zhou Quian's eyes deepened a little. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand, hugged Shen King's waist, held her waist, and hugged her to him. Suddenly, he was close at hand, and suddenly the brain of was close to each other. Shen King subconsciously opened his eyes wide and exclaimed softly, but when he touched Zhou Quian's eyes, he quickly covered his mouth. Zhou Quian's eyes were full of aggression. When he got closer, Shen King lowered his hand covering his mouth. She probably knew that she gave the wrong answer yesterday. In fact, Zhou Quian should hope that they can get along intimately before marriage. Moreover, Zhou Quian is kind to her family. She has a little conscience and should not refuse to know a little fun. Shen King's drooping hand was held by Zhou Quian, and the hand around her waist was still strong. Zhou Quian kissed her lips in such a posture, and she had no way out of struggle at all. Zhou Quian's lips were very soft and the smell of wine was also very strong. Shen King felt the smell, and he seemed to be drunk. However, her heart was still very tight. She opened her lips slightly and let Zhou Quian be a little more presumptuous. Feeling Shen King's acquiescence, Zhou Quian held her waist harder, picked her up directly, and sat on his lap face to face. Shen King was willing to indulge, but he didn't think about it to this point. When Zhou Quian put her hand into the corner of her clothes, she had a kind of Zhou Quian might be in the car. There really was an illusion that something happened to her, especially when Zhou Quian kissed deeper and deeper, The assistant also shook the partition up. Zhou Quyan, can you not be here? Shen Qing's voice of protest was very low and his breath was very heavy. It was hard to find a gap to speak. Zhou Quyan's kiss was too fierce. Zhou Quyan was stunned for 2 seconds, a little away from her lips, and the strength of hugging her was also loosening. Sorry. He was a little confused after drinking. Zhou Quyan let go completely and waited for Shen Qing to get off him. Shen Qing took a deep breath, quickly got off his lap in a funny and clumsy way, and sat back in his original position. And the atmosphere in the carriage was delicate and quiet, leaving each other's breaths trying to calm down. Don't you want to go to Anxue now? Half a minute later, Zhou Quyan opened his mouth. His eyes fell on Shen Qing's face, and his throat knot moved slightly. No, I'm afraid that you will feel uncomfortable after drinking too much, if you force yourself to hold on. Well, before Shen Qing finished speaking, Zhou Quyan nodded leisurely. He really drank too much today, but I didn't expect them to drink so well. When Zhou Quyan said this, his eyes were still looking at Shen Qing. He seemed to be as calm as water, but there were some hidden waves in his eyes. Zhou Quyan's eyes withdrew, and his face returned to normal. Since Shen Qing said that he was drunk, and it was not embarrassing to be drunk. Chapter 24 Lipstick Mark. In order to say hello to the assistant and to prevent Shen Qing from continuing to be embarrassed in a narrower space, Zhou Quyan raised his hand and tapped the baffle. Shen Qing raised his eyes and looked at Zhou Quyan's hand knocking on the baffle. His fingers were very slender and beautiful. He just stroked the skin around her waist with this hand. The baffle was quickly shaken down, and the assistant turned his head and took a look. Shen Qing subconsciously lowered her eyes and avoided her eyes. She didn't know how to calmly face the assistant's eyes. I won't go to Anxue first. Well, Zhou Quyan seemed to be silent for a moment. Then he turned to look at Shen Qing and asked, have you eaten yet? Looking at Zhou Quyan's entanglement, the assistant was very conscious and continued to drive first. Dinner. Shen Qing turned his head and glanced at the dim sky outside. Yes, I patronized drinking before. I didn't eat any staple food. Shall we? Well, Shen Qing nodded quickly. What happened just now spoiled his fun, and he couldn't do without the face of having a meal. Finding a place to eat, Zhou Quyan spoke again. This was said to the assistant. The assistant did not look back, but nodded. Okay. The car fell into silence again. Shen Qing picked his nails and glanced at Zhou Quyan. He found that the corners of his lips were a little red, not particularly thick, but he could vaguely see that it should be her lipstick when she kissed just now. That. Shen Qing swallowed his saliva when he opened his mouth to speak. When Zhou Quyan heard the reputation, he raised his finger and pointed to the corner of his lips. You have some lipstick marks here. Do you want to wipe it for me? Okay. Zhou Quyan nodded leisurely. Shen Qing took out the paper, moved his buttocks a little, and came closer to Zhou Quyan. The tissue really stuck to the corners of his lips, and Shen Qing was a little flustered again. Zhou Quyan now looks calm and elegant, but when he gets close, especially when he gets close to smelling the smell of wine on his body, Shen Qing always has an illusion that he will suddenly pounce like a hungry wolf. Zhou Quyan's kiss just now made her a little trembling. She knew that Zhou Quyan was still very strong after drinking a lot, which was very different from usual. On the first night, Zhou Quyan also drank. Shen Qing's lips were gently wiped, and when he looked up, he saw her face close at hand. At this moment, even her restless and trembling eyelashes could be seen clearly. Zhou Quyan suddenly raised his hand and held Shen Qing's wrist before his mouth was dry again. Shen Qing looked at him with wide eyes, and there was a collapse in his eyes, like a lamb to be slaughtered, innocent and dared not refuse. I'll do it myself. Zhou Quyan put his hand up from her wrist, pulled out the tissue in her hand, and then wiped it by herself. Shen Qing pursed his lips, moved his buttocks obediently, and sat a little away from him. That's right. As soon as Shen Qing sat back in his previous seat, Zhou Quyan suddenly opened his mouth again. Shen Qing turned his eyes to look at him. Zhou Quyan had wiped it. At this moment, he was looking at the faint color on the paper towel. Oh, I don't like too bright colors, but I still need to apply it when I go out. The complexion will look better. Shen Qing was like a student when he said this. He answered the teacher's answer obediently and thoughtfully, for fear that he would be deducted points if he didn't say it. LOL. Okay, I wrote it down. Zhou Quyan smiled and nodded. No, I didn't ask you to send it. Shen Qing realized after the fact that he hurriedly waved his hand, touched Zhou Quyan's eyes, lowered his eyes leisurely, and nodded in compromise. Well, I like the lighter color. Shen Qing should not refuse. If she refuses, she will be a little ignorant. If she is really so honest, her family should not have collected money. Since she has received it, she does not need to pretend to be a saint in front of Zhou Quyan. Chapter 25 In the wedding room. The car quickly stopped in front of a restaurant. Zhou Qian got out of the car with Shen King. He also went to the window of the driver's seat on purpose, and then said to the assistant, "You can drive the car away and get off work first. Then Mr. Zhou, how will you go back soon?" The assistant looked up at him and asked back, "I'll call the driver of the old house to pick me up later, or I can take a taxi. It doesn't matter." After Zhou Qian finished speaking, he turned to look at Shen King, smiled, then held her wrist and took her into the restaurant. When Zhou Qian held her wrist, Shen King also took his arm with the other hand. On the one hand, it was difficult for her to refuse such intimacy. After all, they would soon become husband and wife. On the other hand, she was really worried that Zhou Qian would be unstable after drinking. When two people entered the restaurant, there were not many people inside. "Where do you and to sit?" Zhou Qian turned his head and glanced at Shen King. Yu Guang subconsciously drooped and glanced at his arm. "By the window, right?" Shen King answered. "Well," Zhou Qian took her to sit by the window. At this time, it didn't look like drinking too much. From helping her pull the chair to order, Zhou Qian did it himself, rational and sober. This meal was not very lively, but it was very harmonious. "Are you full? I'll call the driver to take you back first, and then I'll go home." Seeing Shen King put down his chopsticks, Zhou Qian said this thoughtfully. "Are you going back to your father?" Shen King looked at him and still asked. "I always feel that they get along very harmoniously and calmly, but they seem to be more or less thin. After all, they know nothing about each other. The house in my name is being renovated. In fact, it has been decorated, but I haven't lived there much. I haven't been back to China before, and I lived with my father-in-law of the time. In fact, I can live there directly. But now, I think that if it is a wedding room, I can add a little more detailed decoration." When Zhou Qian said this, he had already taken out his mobile phone. When he put the phone on his ear, he continued to speak. "Soon, it will be finished in a few days. You don't have to worry. Brother Zhong, send me a car here. I've had a drink." "Okay, I'll send you the address." After Zhou Qian finished saying that to Shen King, he directly spoke to the phone that was connected, explained Li Suo, and soon hung up the phone. When he sent the address, he looked up at Shen King while sending the message. "Do you want to add your name?" "What?" Shen King was a little puzzled. "No." Shen King shook his head quickly. "This is the house you bought before marriage. You don't need to add my name. In case you get divorced in the future, you will be very delicious." "That's not what I meant. I said so." Shen King quickly shook his head and smiled awkward. "Lie. Do you understand? Just seek truth from facts." Zhou Qian was not angry, but smiled. He was still flattered. "You actually cared about my future interests, which shows that you are quite generous to me. I didn't mean to cheat you." Shen King looked at Zhou Qian with a little serious eyes. "I know." Zhou Qian nodded with a smile. Zhou Qian's eyes were very calm, but Shen King was a little embarrassed. "Zhou Zixuan is also right. He just doesn't accept marriage. It's their fault. We have to keep our previous promises, and the Zhou family, as Zhou Qian said, will not betray their faith, so they have now. In fact, they cheated Zhou Qian. If Zhou Qian chooses as he pleases, he can find a better girl than her in minutes." The atmosphere was a little delicate. Shen King called lightly and changed the topic. "I called him Uncle Zhang before. Is he a bad generation?" "It's okay regardless of the small." Chapter 26. Are you praising yourself? Sitting and waiting or walking around? Some distance? I guess the car won't arrive so soon. When Zhou Qian said this, he took out his wallet and put it on the table. He only knew whether to pay the bill after Shen King said a word. "Cash." Shen King was a little surprised, but when he looked at his wallet, he had to say that he was very tasteful. His wallet was beautiful, and he was very low-key and luxurious. Zhou Qian raised his eyebrows slightly and asked with his eyes. "It's okay." Shen King quickly waved his hand with a smile, and then turned his head and looked around. He found that the people who had finished eating had left in twos and threes. The rest of them continued to sit for a long time. "I'm afraid it would be more embarrassing," so Shen King nodded and went out for a walk. "Well," Zhou Qian smiled and invited the waiter to pay the bill. Shen King watched Zhou Qian take out the money, and looked at him elegant and calmly reaching out. He felt like he was watching an ancient Hong Kong film. "Let's go." Zhou Qian bought the bill and reached out to her when he got up. Shen King looked up at him, hesitated for 2 seconds, and still put his hand in his palm. Zhou Qian's hands were very warm. After leaving the restaurant, he directly stuffed their hands into the pockets of their coats. Shen King glanced at him secretly. "In fact, it doesn't matter what it's called. When I was a child, I also called him uncle, but he is not a few years older than my oldest brother. I still follow my brother and sister to call him well. When the two were walking slowly on the road, Zhou Qian suddenly said this. Shen Qing realized later that he was responding to the question she asked before. Then I will also be called Brother Zhang in the future, right? Shen Qing looked at him. It is appropriate to follow Zhou Zixuan to be called uncle. If she wants to follow Zhou Qian, she has to follow his identity. It's okay, whatever you call it. Zhou Qian Lo. I drew a wedding dress last night. Would you like to have a look? Zhou Qian suddenly stopped and said this. While talking, he looked around and pulled Shen Qing to the wooden chair by the roadside. When I sat down, I let go of my hand. Not to mention, I was held by a big hand and put it in my pocket. This would be directly exposed to the air, and my palms were cold in an instant. Look, Zhou Qian handed his mobile phone to Shen Qing. On the screen, he drew the photo he took yesterday. And King was a little embarrassed when he took over the mobile phone. Zhou Qian's work efficiency is really fast, which makes her unable to help but eat and sleep. Shen Qing secretly glanced at Zhou Qian, and then looked at the screen of his mobile phone. Zoom in and take a look. I have drawn some small details. Zhou Qian opened his mouth. As soon as the words fell, Shen Qing already felt that his hand was held again. Zhou Qian held her hand holding the mobile phone, and then enlarged a photo on the screen of the mobile phone with the other hand. Shen Qing subconsciously swallowed her saliva. She didn't dare to raise her eyes, but her eyes did not fall on the screen, but slightly, looking at her hand holding the mobile phone held by Zhou Qian. His fingers are really beautiful. Even if you don't look at his face, you can feel the nobility just by looking at his fingers, which is the same as some good-looking finger pictures on the internet. Is there any problem? Zhou Qian spoke again. Very good. I think it's very beautiful. Shen Qing quickly raised her eyes to look at him when she heard the sound. She felt that it was polite to make eye contact when she spoke, but when she really touched Zhou Qian's eyes, she couldn't help but panic in her heart. I'm also worried that you don't like it. Zhou Qian smiled and was relieved. I still believe in your aesthetics. Shen Qing smiled. Zhou Qian looked at her, thought for a few seconds, and then said with a smile, Are you praising yourself? Chapter 27. I came back from a business trip. Shen Qing came home, took a shower, and then lay on the bed and looked at his mobile phone. On the mobile phone is the wedding dress design he drew by himself sent to her by Zhou Qian. Shen Qing also specially enlarged it. Although he had enlarged it before, it was too close to Zhou Qian, and his mind and eyes were not really on the screen. This time, Zhou Qian didn't give her a present team, but let her take a look first, and then give her some suggestions. After thinking clearly, he will find him. He will accompany her to and she to make a final decision. In order to really say 1, 2 or 3 when I see Zhou Qian next time, Shen Qing has been trying to hold Buddha's feet temporarily in the past few days. I learned something about design, and watched several videos and photos of other people's weddings. However, Zhou Qian seems to have disappeared. Or rather, it's not disappearing. It really seems to be very sincere. Put what you said first and really wait for Shen Qing. Before Shen Qing contacted him, he didn't take the initiative to find her. This feeling is quite magical. Zhou Qian has not appeared in Shen Qing's world for a long time. Maybe he has had a close relative, or maybe he has subconsciously acquiesced to his future husband. A person who has not appeared for a short time has been repeatedly trying her heart in the past few days. Every time she met Zhou Qian, she felt expectant and timid. In the past few days, Zhou Qian didn't take the initiative to find her, and she didn't know how to open her. She held her mobile phone in her hand many times, but she didn't know how to open her mouth first, as if she was awkward to say anything. But according to Zhou Qian's efficiency, Shen Qing felt that giving herself a few days was enough and a luxury. If she delayed it for 10 days and half a month without responding, it would really show that she was not sincere enough. Gritting his teeth, Shen Qing still turned on his mobile phone, and then pressed it into the chat record with Zhou Qian. After writing and deleting, Shen Qing didn't really send a word for half a minute. Shen Qing was a little depressed and was about to give up. Just as she was about to turn down her mobile phone, Zhou Qian sent her a message. How about it? Do you have any ideas about the wedding dress? As always, the Haggle banquet is straight to the point. Maybe he also realized it in the afterthought that he was too direct and cold. And then the second one continued to send it. How have you been these days? I just came back from a business trip. Shen Qing looked at the word business trip, and the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. The reason for the business trip still made Shen Qing feel more comfortable. Maybe subconsciously, I still feel that there is no news about Zhou Qian these days, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm fine. The wedding dress you designed is also very good. I don't have a big opinion. When you have time, let's talk to and share about some details. In fact, Shen Qing can say it more simply. It's better to listen to Zhou Qian, because she is unlikely to really have the ability to overthrow what Zhou Qian painted. To be honest, it is really good and does not need a big change. However, Shen Qing still said more nonsense in the message she replied. She felt that too many words might seem a little more careful. Okay, I'm on the bus. Have you had lunch? Come to pick you up. Shen Qing pursed his lips and looked at this message back and forth several times. Later, he realized that Zhou Qian might have just landed. Now he just got on the car. As soon as he got on the bus, he asked her for dinner. She couldn't refuse. Okay, shall I wait for you at home? Shen Qing bit his lip and added another sentence. My father is at home. Shen Qing, he didn't know why she said such a sentence. It felt amazing. Sometimes she couldn't tell what the relationship between the two of them was now. It was very honest, but sometimes she felt a little sneaky. Okay, wait for me. Chapter 28. When Zhou Qian came, Shen Qing was a little restless. He walked back and forth in the room several times, and finally sat in front of the dressing mirror and painted a light makeup. When Shen Qing went out of the room, he saw Shenlie flipping through a thick K-gift book on the sofa, wearing a pair of prescription glasses on the bridge of his nose. She moved her steps step by step and walked to the sofa. Hearing the sound, Shenlie looked up at her, took off his glasses, and looked at her with some inquiry. What's wrong? I went out for dinner with Zhou Qian later. When Shen Qing said this, he sat down beside him. Okay, Shenlie nodded and was ready to close the gift money. Why don't you show me? Shen Qing stretched out his hand. In recent years, to be honest, Shen Qing has a very ordinary relationship with her father. Her brother occasionally talks to her, and she doesn't particularly care about it. It seems that since her mother's death, she and the two men in the family have only lived in the same relationship, which is really not particularly close. Shenlie has always been very focused on her career before and did not have much time at home. Shen Qing spent more time with her mother. Her brother also favored his father's personality and thoughts, which is more traditional and machismo, so it is difficult to get along more intimately. Her father also slowly gave up his work after her mother's death, and Shen Haoji took over. Okay, take a look. Shenlie handed over the notebook and sighed with some feeling. These are all relatives and friends who will attend your wedding later, and I don't know how many you know. Speaking of the wedding, Shenlie lowered his eyes and was silent for several seconds, and then whispered, wronging you. Shen Qing gently stroked the edge of the notebook and said nothing. In fact, she is not very innocent, and she was not forced to marry. When she was Zhou Zixuan before, she was also looking forward to it. She didn't let Zhou Zixuan know that she was incompetent and uncharismatic. So far, it is caused by many factors, and we have to continue. When it comes to grievances, she feels that Zhou Qian is more aggrieved than her, and Zhou Qian is much better than Zhou Zixuan. If she is not willing to betray her trust, it would not be her turn to be Mrs. Zhou anyway. The atmosphere fell into silence. Shen Qing didn't know what to say. He simply lowered his head and looked at the gift book page by page. I know some of the names above, but I haven't heard more of them. I don't know how long it has passed, but the mobile phone rang. When Shen Qing quickly put down the notebook and took out her mobile phone, her heart began to tighten a little. She knew that it must be the message sent to her by Zhou Qian. I'm here. Shen Qing looked at those words. As soon as he got up, the next message was sent again. Open the door. Shen Qing subconsciously looked in the direction of the door, then looked down at Shenlie and said, Dad, Zhou Qian is coming. Shenlie cowed lightly, but got up very decently. Anyway, except for Shen Qing's feelings, Zhou Qian, the son-in-law, is indeed more useful and decent than Zhou Zixuan. Shen Qing walked to the door and took a deep breath when he opened the door. The door opened, and Zhou Qian stood at the door, wearing a white shirt, looking a little casual and young. He should have taken off his overly serious suit directly in the car just now. Zhou Qian smiled and was very decent, and he also carried a gift in his hand. Is Qu Yan coming? Shenlie's voice sounded, and Shen Qing bit his lip and gave way to Zhou Qian. Uncle, I just came back from a business trip, and brought you a gift. Zhou Qian entered the door with a smile, calling it consciously and naturally. Chapter 29. His coat. Zhou Qian's social skills are quite good. Anyway, when Shen Qing followed him out of the house in the end, her father looked quite happy and was coaxed very comfortably. Walking to the side of the car, Zhou Qian opened the door of the co-driver's car for her. When he bent down and went in, he found that the suit jacket taken off by Zhou Qian was placed on the co-driver's seat. Shen Qing was stunned for 2 seconds. When Zhou Qian was about to reach out and take it, she picked it up first, then sat in and held the clothes in her arms. Just like last time, Zhou Qian didn't say anything. He just closed the car door for her and went around to the driver's seat. Seatbelt. After Zhou Qian got on the car, he turned his head and looked at Shen Qing. After the words fell, he simply came over and fastened the seatbelt for her, and then took a look at the coat she was holding in her arms. Do you need to put it in the bag? Shen King hesitated for 2 seconds. Zhou Qian smiled and sat back in his seat, simply fastening his seatbelt. Okay, you can hold him first. I booked a restaurant, and it's not far anyway. Well, Shen King nodded. This time, he was more reserved. He didn't smell his coat. He just held it in his arms and looked out of the car window. Are you on a business trip these days? Still looking out of the car window, Shen King turned his head to look at Zhou Qian. Yes, he just came back. Zhou Qian smiled and turned his head slightly to look at Shen King. His eyes were full of ice that I had just told you, but his eyes were patiently spoiled. Well, Shen King nodded and seemed to fall into silence again for a moment, unable to find a topic. Where shall we go for dinner? Shen King had nothing to say, just a little ahead. When I came over, I saw a restaurant that looked good, so I went in and took a look. I booked a seat and ordered food, and I could eat there. Oh, Shen King nodded, and she didn't know whether it was Zhou Qian who talked to death or herself. I came back in a hurry. I didn't eat in the morning and was a little hungry. As if he could feel Shen King's embarrassment and loss, Zhou Qian freed up one hand and stretched out to hold her hand. When Shen King felt the force in his hand, he subconsciously looked down and could see Zhou Qian's withdrawn hand. Looking at his hand, he still felt that it was still beautiful and his fingers were clear. Shen King's eyes unconsciously followed his hand, and finally his eyes followed the steering wheel he put back. What's the matter? The voice of Zhou Qian sounded. Oh, it's okay. I'm also a little hungry. Shen King came back to his senses and quickly withdrew his eyes. His eyes had nowhere to put them. Finally, he drooped to his hand and gently pinched Zhou Qian's coat in his hand, which was still the residual temperature on the back of his hand. Oh, by the way, the wedding dress you painted is very beautiful. After a few seconds of silence, Shen King opened his mouth again and finally remembered that she had found a topic to talk about. She turned her eyes to Zhou Qian and continued to speak. It's not brainless praise. I really looked at other people's wedding scenes and wedding dresses on the internet these days. Yours is really not as good as others. The difference between regular designers. Haha. Zhou Qian smiled with a strong smile. He turned his head to look at her, and finally reached out and rubbed her head gently. Well, I believe you are not bragging. Shen King looked at him and his heart skipped. There was a smile in Zhou Qian's tone. He said that he believed, but in his tone, he obviously didn't believe it. But he was in a good mood and not angry. Chapter 30. I am 8 years older than you. Shen King was a little surprised when he followed Zhou Qian into the restaurant. This restaurant is well decorated. I have seen it many times when I came home before. I thought I would find a time and opportunity to eat it next time, but it didn't work. Unexpectedly, it finally came today. When Shen King said this, he looked up at Zhou Qian, and there was a little light in his eyes. It's good if you like it. Zhou Qian smiled, held her wrist, and took her to sit by the window. After the TWO sat down, the dishes were served soon. Maybe both of them were hungry, but this meal was very harmonious. Just try to bury your head in the meal, and you don't have too much time to be embarrassed. Zhou Qian ate faster than her. After putting down her chopsticks, she took out her mobile phone. Looking at the rhythm of his typing and his serious look, he was probably dealing with official affairs. Shen King was full and wiped his mouth with a tissue. Then he looked up at Zhou Qian and said, hopefully, are you busy today? Zhou Qian pressed the black mobile phone when he heard the sound and looked at her with a smile. He was full of patience and did not say anything, but his eyes acquiesced that she continued to speak. If you are not busy today, let's go to Aunt Xia's place. It's better to finish the wedding dress quickly. I don't know when the wedding date is, but it's better to prepare the wedding dress as soon as possible, right? When Shen King said this, he looked at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian pondered a little, and then opened his mouth. He was very serious. His life was still watching. My father was more concerned about this, so he had to look at the time more carefully, but it should be next month, and next month should be good for several days. Zhou Qian looked at her, paused for 2 seconds and continued. Don't worry, the day is certain, and I will take care of the venue. Sometimes it's really easy to use money, and you don't need to line up for more than half a year. Well, Shen King nodded. Okay. Zhou Qian looked at her and suddenly nodded again. Zhou Qian raised his hand, called the waiter to pay the bill, and then continued. If you are not busy today, you can go to Aunt Xue. When the waiter came over, Shen King's eyes kept falling on Zhou Qian's hand, wanting to see where he took out his wallet. As a result, he took out his mobile phone and paid with WeChat. Zhou Qian pressed the black mobile phone and looked up to see Shen King's embarrassed and withdrawn eyes. He laughed very recklessly. I also paid with my mobile phone. When I had cash on my body, I thought about spending the money quickly. When Zhou Qian said this, He looked at her with a smile. I was just a relatively big generation, and I still like many young people now. The same. Zhou Qian looked sideways at Shen King and couldn't help asking, in your heart, am I still a young man? Zho, Yu Qian asked so bluntly, which made Shen King a little speechless. I was only 32 in the second half of the year. Zhou Qian met her eyes and opened his mouth seriously. Shen King bit his lip and didn't know what to say. Compared with you, he is indeed a few years older. And Zhou Qian continued to speak. Well, Shen King seemed to hum from his nose, and he didn't know whether to nod or shake his head. I'm 8 years older than you, and Zhou Qian added this sentence. I can accept the age difference. Shen King nodded after pondering, and then continued. I don't think you are old. That's good. Zhou Qian smiled and got up. Zhou Qian will not lose his posture or run out of control. He has high requirements for education, but that's why it is difficult to see his truest joys and sorrows. In other words, his jokes seem to be serious, and when he is serious, he seems to be joking. I don't know what you should say to satisfy him. On the way, Zhou Qian stood in front of her and stretched out his hand to Shen King.